The train rolled into Dust Haven with a scream of steel and a breath of smoke, as if it resented bringing anyone here. The platform was empty but for the sun-baked wood and a mangy dog chewing on a dead bird. When the doors opened, a single passenger stepped down, a woman in black, stiff with heat, eyes scanning the dust as though she hoped it was all some mistake. Clara Whitmore, 27 years old, Missouri-born, raised in corn and silence. Her dress was plain, her boots worn but polished. She carried a carpet-bag in one hand, a bundle in the other. No one waited for her. The silence thickened. She approached the telegraph office first, asking for Elias Boone. The man behind the counter hesitated, wiped his face, and cleared his throat too many times. "Boone's dead, ma'am. Buried 3 days ago, out past the canyon ridge." Clara blinked. She didn't drop her bag or her voice. "What happened?" "Shot. Poker game gone wrong." She nodded once and turned away, as if she'd merely been told the train was late. She walked through the town, past the sun-warped saloon, the half-built mercantile, the cluster of boys pretending not to stare. She found the church at the edge of town, its bell cracked, its pews empty. The preacher, a young man with eyes that looked away too often, let her stay in the back room. The town whispered, "Mail-order bride. Come all the way for a corpse." Boone never even saw her. Clara spent her days sweeping the church steps, mending curtains, cooking quiet meals. She spoke little, listened much. When a child scraped her knee, Clara wrapped it with cloth dipped in cool tea. When the blacksmith's wife fell sick, Clara sat beside her with a bowl of broth. She never asked for thanks. Some nights, she walked out past the canyon ridge to the wooden cross marked with Elias Boone's name. She never cried there, just stood a while, lips moving, as if saying something to the earth. One afternoon, Sheriff Grant came calling. Tall, iron-boned, a mustache like a forgotten broom. He stood awkwardly at her door. "You got folks to write to, Miss Whitmore." "No one left," she replied. "I see. Well, if you need escort out, we can arrange for." "I'm not leaving." His mouth opened, then closed. He took off his hat, nodded, and left her to it. 2 weeks passed. Then he came. The day cracked open with heat that shimmered on the road. Horses clattered in, 6 of them, dust in their wake. And leading them was a man who made silence fall like a dropped coin. Broad-shouldered, dust-coated, with a scar like lightning down his cheek. His coat flared with every step like a preacher's robe. The wanted posters had drawn him leaner, uglier, but the scar was the same. Colt McGraw, outlaw, killer, devil in spurs. The townsfolk watched from windows and doorways. Guns stayed sheathed. No one had ever lived long enough to draw first on McGraw and tell the tale. He walked straight through Dust Haven, slow and deliberate, until he stood at the church steps. Clara was there, broom in hand, pausing mid-sweep. She didn't flinch, not even when he tipped his hat and said, in a voice rough as gravel, "I'll take her." The preacher stepped out fast, hands trembling. "Sir, that ain't. She's under the churches." "She was promised to Elias Boone," McGraw said, not looking away from Clara. "That's my half-brother. Name's on the contract. Boone's name was mine once." Clara's voice was quiet, steady. "And which name do you claim now?" He smiled without warmth. "The one men fear." "I don't fear you," she said. That made his smile widen. "Not yet." She set the broom aside. The wind carried dust between them. "Whatever arrangement Boone made, it died with him," she said. "I came for a man, not a myth." Colt stepped 1 pace closer. "You're alone. You don't belong here. That makes you fair game. Or maybe just a game." Clara didn't back away. "I belong where I choose to stay." For a heartbeat, silence wrapped them both. The preacher muttered a prayer. A baby cried somewhere far off. And Colt McGraw laughed. A single sharp bark that turned heads. "You've got fire," he said. "Boone picked well. I'll give him that." He turned, spat into the dirt, and walked off. His gang followed. The town exhaled. That night, Clara locked her door and bolted the window. She took her father's photograph from her bag. His Union captain's uniform faded, his eyes sharp as hers. The moon rose high. silvering the dirt like a shroud. Somewhere out there, Colt McGraw lit a fire and looked back at the town, grinning like a man who already owned it. And Clara Whitmore, mail-order bride to a dead man, stood alone in Dust Haven, unclaimed, unwelcome, and utterly unafraid. The saloon door swung wide with a bang the next evening, and Colt McGraw sauntered in like he'd built the place himself. The piano player froze mid-note, gamblers looked up without blinking, and Sheriff Grant's fingers twitched near his holster. Colt ignored them all. He headed straight for the back corner, where Clara sat alone with a cup of black coffee. The light from the oil lamp above flickered across her face, casting shadows under her cheekbones, sharpening the calm in her eyes. He didn't ask to sit. He simply did. "You never wrote back," he said. Clara stirred her coffee once, twice. "I didn't know the letters were from you." "They weren't. Not at first. Boone asked me to help with the words. Said he wanted a woman who thought straight and didn't scare easy. I figured I'd write her true and see if she'd bite." Her jaw tightened. "You lied." "I told the truth," he said, grinning. "Just not mine." Clara looked at him now. Not just the scar or the grin that didn't reach his eyes, but the man beneath the dirt and reputation. There was a weight behind his posture, a weariness at war with swagger. "Why come now?" she asked. "Because Boone's dead, and you came anyway. That means something. Maybe it means you were looking for more than a husband." "I was," she said. "I was looking for a place I could be useful." "Useful?" he echoed, chuckling. "Hell, that's a word I haven't heard in years." She stood, reaching for her shawl. "This conversation's done." But his hand darted out, catching her wrist, not tight, not painful, just enough to pause her. "I'm not asking for trouble, Clara," he said, voice low. "I'm offering protection. You stay here. Folk will keep looking sideways at you. They'll see you as mine whether you like it or not. Better you be mine and have something to show for it." Her mouth twitched, not quite a smile. "You think I want to belong to a man who offers his name like a bribe? I think you're too smart to waste yourself in a church pantry." She pulled free and walked out, her boots clicking on the saloon floor like distant thunder. That night, smoke rose from the edge of town. Flames chewed at the back of the church. The bell collapsed in on itself with a groan that stirred every soul from sleep. Clara stood in the street barefoot, staring at the blaze. Her small room was untouched, but everything else, her stitching supplies, her quiet sanctuary, was gone. Colt arrived before the sheriff. No one saw him coming. Suddenly he was just there, coat flapping, eyes sharp. "You all right?" he asked. She didn't answer. "You think it was me?" he added, quieter. "No," she said. "You wouldn't burn a house before you lived in it." He smirked. "Glad you're learning." Sheriff Grant came running, half-dressed, revolver drawn. He scowled when he saw Colt, but kept his attention on the fire. "Any sign of who did this?" the sheriff asked. Clara looked at the smoke, then the sheriff, then Colt. "No," she said, "but someone wanted me scared." The sheriff nodded, already knowing he'd find no answers before morning. The wind carried sparks toward the hillside. By noon, Clara had moved into the old shack on the north edge of town. Boone's place. What little survived the fire, she carried there herself. No one offered help. A few women watched from porches, lips thin with judgment. Colt sent over food. Flour, beans, a ham wrapped in burlap. She sent it back. He sent whiskey. She sent it back unopened. He sent a note, scrawled in tight script. "You've got grit, but grit don't keep you warm." She burned it in her stove, without a word. Still, he lingered in town. His men scattered into the hills, but he stayed close, drifting through the saloon, buying rounds he didn't drink, watching the street like it owed him something. Some said he was waiting to strike. Others whispered he'd already claimed what he came for. No one dared ask Clara. Then came the moment she'd been waiting for. She found a loose board beneath Boone's old bed, and beneath it, a box wrapped in oilskin. Inside, her father's pistol, the Colt Navy revolver engraved with his initials, left with her when he died in a surgeon's tent in Tennessee. She had kept it hidden, not out of fear, but out of patience. She cleaned it by lamplight, each motion precise, remembering his words. "You aim once, you mean it. You fire once, you end it." A knock at the door. She opened it slowly. Colt stood alone. "You got a minute?" She stepped aside. He entered, eyes scanning the room, not out of caution, but familiarity. This had been Boone's space once. Maybe it felt like his birthright. "I came to say something honest," he said. "You deserve that." She nodded. "I killed Boone," he said. The silence that followed was so sharp it might have drawn blood. "We drank too much. He said he wanted out, wanted to start clean with you. I told him he was dreaming. He came at me. I drew first." Clara looked down at her hands. They didn't shake. "And now?" she asked. "I don't know. I thought maybe taking you would patch something. Make it right. But you're not something to patch." "No," she said. "I'm not." His jaw clenched. "You going to shoot me?" "If I did, the town would throw a party." He chuckled. "But you won't." "No," she said. "Not yet." They stood there, two ghosts in the shell of a man's dream. "I want you gone," she said. "I'll go," he replied, "but not far." And then he left, the door creaking behind him like a tired promise. That night the wind shifted, and Clara, staring into the dark with her father's revolver on the table, knew the past wasn't finished with Dust Haven. Not yet. The morning came with a strange hush. No roosters crowed. No hammers rang from the blacksmith's forge. Even the wind moved like it feared waking something dark. Clara stepped onto her porch with her father's revolver strapped at her waist. She hadn't worn it since the war ended and her family scattered like ash. But today wasn't for mourning. Today was for warning. At the edge of town, riders waited. 6 of them, broad-shouldered and mean-eyed, with dust-crusted coats and rifles slung casual across their backs. They weren't McGraw's men, no. These carried a different stink. Hired hands, bounty scavengers, men who didn't ask permission before spilling blood. Clara watched them a long moment before stepping down. She passed the general store, the silent saloon, the sheriff's office, where Grant stood pale-faced in the doorway, unsure whether to draw steel or stay still. "You know them?" he asked. "No," Clara said, "but they know McGraw." One of the riders, the tallest, dismounted and tied his horse loose, as if expecting no chase. His voice carried clear. "McGraw, you in there, you half-bred bastard? We come to collect on Dead Man's Ridge. You remember that name?" Doors cracked open. Curtains twitched. The whole town held its breath. Colt McGraw stepped from the barber's shop, face freshly shaved, coat unbuttoned, gun already on his hip. "I remember it," he said, voice low even. "And I remember leaving 5 men behind with their throats opened." The tall man grinned wide, revealing teeth like old nails. "We ain't here for talk. You owe blood." Colt glanced sideways at Clara. "Guess I'm the reason trouble came knocking." "You're not the only reason," she said, eyes narrowing on the tall man. "They don't just want blood. They want land. And I reckon they know who owns what now." The tall man nodded, amused. "Smart little bride. You figured it out. Boone had half the ridge. When he died, McGraw here laid claim. But no signature, no law to back it. That land's worth silver now, with the railroad sniffing around. We take him out, the claim dies." Sheriff Grant stepped forward. "This is a peaceful town. You want a duel, take it outside the line." The tall man laughed. "Ain't gonna be no duel, lawman. Just a reckoning." Colt tilted his head. "You kill me. You still won't own it. It passes to her." All eyes turned to Clara. The tall man blinked, then looked at her, truly looked. "You married?" "No," she said. "But Boone brought her here." Colt added, stepping closer. "Promised his share. We signed the papers." "Lies," the tall man spat. "Prove it," Clara said. "Or leave." He drew. The shot rang out before the sound of his bootstep finished. Clara's revolver smoked at her side, her aim still steady. The tall man stumbled back, clutching his shoulder, swearing through gritted teeth. "I said leave," she repeated, her voice like the cold steel of a blade. 2 of the other riders reached for iron. Colt fired once, twice. 2 bodies hit the dust hard, one twitching, the other still. The others bolted. Hooves thundered as they scattered like rats in sunlight. Only the tall man remained, breathing heavy and bleeding slow. Sheriff Grant looked from Clara to McGraw and back again. What the hell just happened? Clara holstered her gun. Justice. Or close enough for Dust Haven. That afternoon, the dead were buried without ceremony. No one sang hymns. No one dared speak loud enough for ghosts to hear. Clara sat outside the church ruins. Now nothing more than scorched beams and charred earth. McGraw sat beside her, his coat folded across his lap, sleeves rolled. I reckon you saved my life, he said. I reckon I did. You gonna tell folks we're married now? She glanced at him. You want that? He looked off toward the hills, where vultures circled, and the wind carried the scent of ash. I want something real. Not because of Boone. Not because of blood. Just something real. She looked at him then, not the outlaw, not the liar, not the scarred myth with fast hands, but the tired man with no home, and no one left to bury him if he fell tomorrow. I'm not a prize, she said. Never thought you were. I don't need saving. Didn't offer. They sat in silence a while longer. Finally, she stood, dusted her skirt. If you're still here tomorrow, I'll cook. If you're gone, I'll lock the door behind you. He nodded, as solemn as a prayer. Fair trade. As the sun dipped below the ridge, the people of Dust Haven began to gather, quietly, unsure. Children peeked out from behind skirts. Men loosened their collars, their fear receding with the light. And Clara Whitmore, mail-order bride to a dead man, outlaw's target, keeper of a fast gun and faster heart, stood at the edge of her town, no longer waiting for permission. Behind her, the gun still smoked. But they had spoken truth. And that truth, at last, had a name. They came at dawn, when the fog clung to the ground and the chickens hadn't yet stirred in their coops. Clara sensed them before she heard them. Shadows on horseback slipping through the morning mist like ghosts with grudges. She stood at her kitchen window, a knife paused in her hand, half a loaf of bread sliced and forgotten. Colt was still asleep in Boone's old room, dreaming the uneasy dreams of men who've taken lives and waited too long for peace. She didn't wake him. She opened the door slow, careful not to creak the hinges. The revolver hung at her hip like it had always belonged there. She cleaned it again the night before, polished the wood grip with oil and memory. The lead rider halted 20 yards out. His coat flapped gently in the morning breeze, and the rifle slung across his saddle gleamed with fresh oil. Mrs. Whitmore, he called. That's not my name, Clara replied. No, I reckon it ain't, he said. But it's what's on the bounty poster, and it's the reason I'm here. She stepped forward one pace, the wind tugging her shawl aside. You're riding for the bounty on McGraw. The rider smiled. Among other things, we heard what happened here. Word travels fast when men die loud. Too fast, she said. Another man stepped from the side, wiry and pale, eyes too sharp for the rest of his slack features. We don't need no conversation. Just hand over the outlaw, and you keep your roof. Colt's voice rang out from behind her. Funny. Thought I was the one folks wanted dead, yet you're the ones who look nervous. He stepped past Clara, boots solid on the porch, shirt half-buttoned, gun belt tied low and loose. The first rider raised a hand. Now we don't need to do this bloody, McGraw. You come quiet. I promise she stays standing. Colt looked over at Clara. That true, you think? She didn't blink. They shoot women in the back, too. He nodded. Then I guess we make a stand. The moment cracked wide open. Clara dove to the side as shots rang out, splinters bursting from the porch beam. Colt fired 2 rounds. One missed. The other caught the pale man high in the chest. He staggered back, gurgling, before tumbling into the dirt. Another rider tried to flank left. Clara dropped to one knee and fired, her bullet striking the man clean through the thigh. His scream cut through the gunfire. They came hard then, 3 remaining riders breaking for cover, firing from behind the trough and the fence posts. Bullets shattered the windows behind them. Clara and Colt fell back inside, ducking beneath the sill. You got more rounds? He asked. Enough, she said. He grinned through the sweat on his brow. Didn't expect you to fight like this. I didn't expect to have to, she said, reloading with practiced speed. Colt peeked out, fired again. Another rider cried out and went still. That left two. The last men tried circling around. Clara grabbed the shotgun from above the hearth, cracked it open, loaded buckshot. Front's too hot, Colt said. We take the side. They moved together, silent, sharp, deliberate. When the door flung open, Clara dropped the first man with a blast of buckshot that lifted him from the earth. The other hesitated. That was his last mistake. Colt walked out and shot him once, center chest. Silence rolled in thick as thunderclouds. The air was filled with smoke and the stink of gunpowder. Clara's chest heaved, her heart pounding like hooves in her throat. Then came the strangest sound of all. Applause. Sheriff Grant stood at the edge of the street, hat in hand, face pale but firm. Behind him, townsfolk edged forward, timid, uncertain, but drawn by the smell of justice. You two just saved Dust Haven from another bloody page in its history, he said. Clara said nothing. She bent down, picked up one of the fallen rifles, and turned it in her hands. These men weren't bounty hunters, she said. They were hired, too organized, too fast to come. Colt stepped beside her, scanning the bodies. Railroad men. She nodded, trying to claim the land by erasing who stood in their way. You think they'll send more? She looked at the town gathering now. Children holding onto fathers, wives gripping their husbands' sleeves, and men who looked like they wanted to believe in something stronger than fear. They won't need to, she said. We just made our answer loud. Colt reached into one of the dead riders' coats and pulled out a sealed envelope. Inside was a deed, Boone's land, Clara's name forged in fresh ink, not hers. She handed it to the sheriff. Evidence, she said. You want to keep your badge. Do something with it. He took it slowly. What'll you do now? Clara looked at the house, the porch peppered with bullet holes, the sky above still rising gold behind gray clouds. I'll fix what needs fixing. Colt smiled, quiet and sure. And me? You stay if you're building, she said. Not hiding. I've been running a long time. She stepped close, voice low. Then stop. The townsfolk had gathered fully now. Some offered food. Some came just to see. A few stepped forward with hammers and boards. No one questioned Clara's place anymore. The bride had taken a bullet and given a town its spine. And if the railroad came again, Dust Haven would be ready.